5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
This is About Space, America's return to space, with news and information on our U.S. space program. Is your host of About Space, David Denault.
Welcome and thanks for joining me today. If you listened last week, I shared that NASA is studying the possibilities of time travel. But is this really something new? Many of us watched episode after episode of, do you remember?
Don't move. Jim, no one is to move. Spock, you all right?
And yes, we watched the Starship Enterprise travel through space at warp speed. Gene Roddenberry brought us into the future. But how real is the possibility of time travel? Here's more.
Suppose you wanted to take a trip to the North Star, like actually go there. I hear it's lovely this time of century. Well, the North Star is 4 million billion miles away, and there's a universal speed limit, the speed of light. Now, we don't have any ships that can go even nearly that fast, but even if we did, it would take over 400 years to get there. But what if, instead of traveling through space, we moved space around us in order to get to our final destination? And what if instead of taking 400 years, it took more like 4 months? Now, this sounds like science fiction, but NASA is actually funding some really early research related to the Alcubierre Warp Drive, which would allow us to appear to be breaking the universe's speed limit by bending space itself around us. If you take a slinky and stretch it out like this, it represents the space between Earth and the North Star. Quite a ways to travel. But if we can somehow find a way to expand the space behind us and contract the space in front of us, then we've made it most of the way to the North Star without having moved hardly at all. And that is exactly how the Alcubierre Warp Drive works. You would contract space far enough in front of you and expand space far enough behind you, leaving you with a stable bubble to ride in your ship. The space in this bubble hasn't been warped, so you still experience time the same way you normally would. That's different from if your ship itself was traveling close to the speed of light, where time would pass more slowly. The idea of space contracting or expanding sounds weird, but the universe has been expanding since the Big Bang, and it's been doing so faster than the speed of light. So how would we warp space like this? With mass. You may be familiar with Einstein's famous equation: energy is equal to mass times the speed of light squared. In other words, mass is just another form of energy. Einstein also noticed that a lot of energy, or mass, does something funny to space. It contracts it. But in order to get enough contraction to build a warp drive, you need a lot of mass. Bare minimum, something as massive as Jupiter. And that's the easy part. The hard part is figuring out how to expand space behind us. So all NASA's doing now is trying to create teeny tiny warp fields in order to see if this sort of thing is even possible. And if it is, we're still probably a millennium away from actually using it. Until then, if you want to get to the North Star, guess you're better off just hitchhiking.
I hope that illustration with a little humor confirmed that the physics of it is possible. But if they are just now finding out about NASA's curiosity of time travel, how long have they been researching and studying the Alcubierre Drive theory? Well, that's another story. So join me next week when we find out what the academia and astronomers have to say. And be sure to have your family and friends listen each Tuesday with me on About Space Today, and on Fridays, America in Space with Don Meyer from Florida's Space Coast. And be sure to follow us on Facebook for all the space news and updates at aboutspace.today. And our Tuesday shout-out goes to the little island of Anguilla, with its many listeners who enjoy our weekly programs. And to all our friends and listeners around the globe and here in the U.S., thank you for listening. I'm David Denault, and this has been About Space Today.